Where are you going? The camera's over there. You find yourself lost in Irvingland. The Jupiter 2 is cruising through space and things are fairly routine. So routine, Don is letting his mind wander.
Silently, one by one, in the infinite meadows of heaven, blossomed the lovely stars, forget-me-nots of the angels.
It's not something he ever learned, it just sort of drifted out of his mind. Every so often, we get a little hint that there's way more to Don than your basic military pilot. But their discussion of impromptu poetry is interrupted by an object that's coming up fast.
Looks like a big emerald.
Everybody knows the purest emeralds emit green solar flares.
Yes.
My recommendation is we give it a wide berth, and I'm not talking space rapture or poetry.
Recommendation approved.
Well, that was a non-event. Elsewhere in the ship, Dr. Smith is doing what he does best, interrupting someone who's doing something important to indulge himself.
Airborne guidance system?
You are excused, William. This one and I have vital business.
But the robot and I are only halfway through with this checklist, Dr. Smith.
Later, William, later. This pod isn't going anywhere, not for a long, long time.
Well, we have to keep it in readiness.
But Smith has something much more important, so the pod checklist will have to wait.
Not only is it vital, William, but it is a matter which cannot brook delay. I refer, of course, to my periodic physiotherapy session.
For your information, Will Robinson, Dr. Smith is referring to his rub-down. He has told me that my claws do wonders for his aching back.
Will protests, but of course Smith always manages to overrule him.
Well, at least let him check out the airborne guidance system.
I shall do it for you, my boy. Airborne guidance system.
Dr. Smith, no!
Check.
What happened?
Well,
If it's that easy to launch the pod by accident, somebody needs to revamp the controls. In particular, they need a Nobody Named Smith Allowed button. So where are they headed? If you guessed that green planet that they just avoided, give yourself the, well, that was obvious, award. It seems to be pulling them in. Don is following them on the radar scope.
Something strange going on.
What?
Lost track of the pod. Skidded off the scope like something just pushed it out of its flight path.
Centrifugal force from that planet?
The size of it, I'd say it would attract, not repel.
Or maybe its mass is obeying laws of physics that we don't understand yet.
When understanding this show, it helps to keep in mind that Einsteinian physics was as far as science had progressed. Stephen Hawking had just gotten his PhD and had only been diagnosed with ALS 5 years earlier. Black holes had been suggested, but were still borderline science fiction. What we're seeing in the show was pretty much the extent of our interplanetary and intergalactic knowledge. So John is correct. There's lots of laws of physics out there that we didn't understand yet. Even so, there's nothing for it. They'll have to land and look for the pod. There's a barrier of some kind around the planet, but with some serious finagling, they make it through and reach the surface. Now that they're past all the interference, the radio is working again.
We're fine, Dad. We didn't mean to lift off.
Well, never mind that now. Look, are you still in the pod?
Mm-hmm.
Well, stay put till we get there. There's a large anvil-shaped rock out there. We'll be coming from that direction.
Dad, there aren't any rocks out there. Just trees and jungle growth, like a rainforest.
They can't figure out where there might be a rainforest within half a mile of where they are, but suddenly the radio and all other communication equipment isn't connecting.
My sensors indicate that the pod's communication system has been effectively jammed, Will Robinson.
Jammed? By what?
There are more jamming potentials on this planet, Will Robinson, than can be computed by my memory banks.
And whoever it is started jamming before he or his dad could convey any real information.
you are very remiss, William. You neglected to assure your father that I was in no way responsible for this accidental flight.
As I said, it's good to know he's focused on the important stuff, like not telling anyone he pushed that button. Naturally, since John told them to stay in the pod, Smith wants to go try to find the ship on their own. Honestly, this guy is a 6-foot-tall 3-year-old. Tell him not to put his hand on a hot stove and he'll try it just to prove you're not the boss of him. You're still not the boss of me! Then he'll insist he did it on purpose and didn't feel a thing.
Dad told us to stay put.
But we can save time if we meet him halfway. And then, William, you can tell him.
That you were in no way to blame.
Exactly.
All right, Dr. Smith, I'll do my best, but I'm not promising anything.
That's right, Dad. I watched him push the button even though I told him not to and the pod took off, but he was in no way responsible. The button reached up and took hold of his finger. There was nothing he could do to prevent it. Honest, Dad, that's what he told me. I mean, that's what happened. The door controls are jammed, so the robot will force it open and they'll go exploring.
Robot, close the hatch!
Capability inadequate. Follow me!
Tornado will be blown sky high.
I have no idea what he said. I consider that a small blessing from above. It wasn't actually a windstorm. The air pressure outside is higher than the pressure inside the pod, so things were equalizing. Although, given the size of the pod, I'm a little surprised it took so long. Must be more of those laws of physics we don't understand. Speaking of things we don't understand, they can hear a thunder and rainstorm, but nothing's falling on them. Naturally, Smith has the answer.
Well, of course, in the tropics, rain always evaporates before it hits the ground.
It's the wrong answer, but Smith has the answer. And by the way, no, it doesn't.
Do you agree with Dr. Smith's theory, Robot?
Negative. It is my conviction that we are in the presence of meteorological phenomena of alien origin. Data inadequate. For more detailed evaluation.
Alien origin indeed, you will-informed ignoramus. Why, when I was in the islands of the South Pacific...
You do remember that you're on an alien planet and there is no South Pacific here? But since Smith is an exhaustive authority on the subject of everything, the words "I don't know" aren't in his vocabulary. Neither is the idea that there's someone out there who knows more about everything than he does, even though he meets one pretty much every week. The robot tells him the bird doesn't exist.
Oh, good heavens, fatigue has affected my memory. I'm imagining terrors.
I must be tired, too. I heard that bird or whatever it was, just like you did, Dr. Smith.
Well, at least neither of you has to go crazy alone. Smith has had enough. He's ready to lie down for a nap when something appears out of nowhere.
Well, what a luscious-looking fruit.
Dr. Smith, you know we're not supposed to eat alien fruit until it's been analyzed.
Nonsense. This is quite obviously an edible variety of our own terrestrial peach.
Now you know.
By the way, the peaches on this planet aren't as susceptible to heartburn as you are.
I think I'll take a little nap.
I do not recommend sleep, Dr. Smith.
Oh, go away, Ninny, go away.
Rouse him, Will Robinson. It may be very harmful to fall asleep in this area.
What could be harmful about sleeping? Oh, I think I'll take a nap, too.
It hasn't occurred to either of them that there might be something on this planet that's messing with their heads. John and Don are still trying to figure out where they might find a rainforest in all this.
You know, if I didn't know better, I'd say that boulder waited for us to get right underneath it before it let go.
Exploding peaches, sentient rocks. I'm beginning to think this place might not be too friendly. Smith and Will just woke up, but something's weird. For one thing, it's daylight and they went out at night, so they must have slept several hours at least. But things are even weirder.
Robot, what happened to you?
I am in a condition of near inertia due to...
Due to my foot, good heavens, he's developed jungle mildew, I think.
Smith always has an answer. It's always the wrong answer, but he always has an answer. In true form, neither of them will try to probe what really happened to the robot. Instead, they'll just ask him if he can direct them to the Jupiter tube.
Affirmative. However, I shall need a rub down with Dr. Smith's massage lotion. Just do for me what I do for your aching back, Dr. Smith, and I will be fine.
Indeed, of all the impudence.
Better do as he wants, Dr. Smith, or we'll never get going.
A man of my quality reduced to performing menial tasks?
Yes, menial tasks are exactly what a man of your quality is suited for. He'll grumble all the way, but he'll do it.
Dr. Smith!
Yes.
Can't you see it? It looks like our spaceship.
In point of fact, it is the Jupiter 2, or what's left of it. It appears to have been abandoned decades ago at least. But let's digress from that for a moment and watch a little of what Will has learned about Dr. Smith.
I'm going inside. Are you coming with me, Dr. Smith?
Must be, William. I'm afraid that the shock of what we discover may be too much for your young eyes.
All right, I'll wait here while you go inside.
On second thought, I think perhaps it's best if you learn to face disasters bravely. Come, William.
Like what he did there? He played off Smith's own phony cop-out and manipulated him into doing what Will wanted in the first place. He's learned how to do that. If Smith says it's too scary for you, suggest he does it alone. If he declines to go because he's afraid, say you'll go by yourself. He won't be shown up by a child, so either way, you have your companion before he knows what happened. The whole crew may go too easy on Smith for my preference, but it is enjoyable to watch Will do that to him. There's nothing of consequence inside. Everything is decaying and falling apart. The only good news is they haven't found any bodies. But outside, the robot found something. Smith can't believe it. A monument to the robot and not to him? Whatever for?
In memoriam. Erected to the memory of Earth's first ambulatory computer to traverse deep space. To the cybernetic hero.
Balderdash!
Louder, please.
To the cybernetic hero of the Robinson expedition. Gratefully dedicated in the year 2270 AD.
What?
2270 AD? Dr. Smith, we didn't sleep for 15 minutes. We slept for over 270 years.
More likely, something in that barrier they flew into threw them into a time warp. The fact that Will is still 11 years old should tell them they didn't get 270 years down the line by sleeping. We can expect Smith to start looking around for a statue of himself, because if they erected one to the robot, there has to also be one of him. The robot couldn't care less what he thinks.
I am a cybernetic hero.
It's a good thing he's a machine, so stuff like that doesn't go to his head. I'm not sure what the crowd scene was lifted from, but that's the giant from season 1 that they killed, and none of it is really there. Smith can't see the invading army, and Will can't see the giant. In an instant, it all vanishes. So now we know somebody on this planet is messing with them and making them see what the manipulators want them to see. They don't dare trust their senses, which makes for a bit of an awkward situation. But before they can ponder that any further, they have company.
Sergeant, check them out.
All systems check out within safe limits for contact, sir.
He spends a little time making fun of their antiquated robot, then introduces himself.
I'm Astronaut Commander Fletcher. And you must be Dr. Zachary Smith.
Indeed I am.
Our young friend here is Will Robinson, right?
Yes, sir. But how did you know that?
Ultra-sensitive perception equipment.
While his sergeant is checking the ship, he explains that they're not a rescue team, they're archaeologists. They're here to study the ancient ship and help fill in some of the blanks in the history of space exploration.
What about the Jupiter Voyagers? Have you found anything out about what happened to them?
Sergeant, report to base.
Odd how that call came through just as Will was seeking some real answers to what's going on here. While John and Don are still trying to figure out where a rainforest might be, Smith is attending to the important matters, like his stomach.
I must say it was charming of the commander to provide us with such an excellent snack.
Yes, wasn't it convenient that the commander always travels with a round oak table, a silk tablecloth, and a candelabra just in case?
It is not a snack, Dr. Smith. It is a full dinner. If it is a dinner.
What do you mean, if it is a dinner? Of course it's a dinner. I'm eating it, am I not?
You've already discovered that you can't trust your senses, remember? But if it involves food, Smith couldn't care less whether it's real or not. He'll eat it.
I don't like that Commander Fletcher, and I don't trust anything about him or his sergeant.
Now, William, they're fine, upstanding Americans.
After all, they gave him food. They couldn't be evil, could they? Will says, I'm going to go find their headquarters and get some answers. Come on, robot. The two of them take off.
Spare me the direful doubts. To you, Zachary. You've done it again. Wait for me!
Correction, the three of them take off. He can't say the robot didn't warn him. He can't say it did. No, I mean that literally. He's incapable of saying something that might make him culpable for his own actions. It's a physical disorder where his mouth literally stops working. Sort of like, well, you see, I thought I was helping to check the systems, and I...
This must be their headquarters.
If it is their headquarters, and if these are flags,
What do you mean?
my sensors indicate that appearances can be deceptive, Will Robinson.
Is the robot familiar with the word illusion, as in something on this planet is creating illusions to jerk you around? He talks in such oblique terms that Will has trouble catching the meaning. Just say it plainly, robot. Something here is screwing with their heads. There's nothing in there but weird sounds coming from somewhere, so they decide to look somewhere else.
Judy?
She says, I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I'm not your sister. She was my great-great-great-grandmother. The robot questions whether she's real at all, but of course Smith won't hear any good sense from the machine that has the ability to tell whether she's real or not.
Silence, cybernetic skeptic. William, where are your manners? Say how do you do to your niece 5 or 6 times removed.
I'm not sure I want to.
I know how you feel, Will. You're terribly disappointed because I'm not who you thought I was. But we are relatives. Come on. I'm sure you and I have lots of things to talk about.
But let's do it without the pompous clown who keeps interrupting us. So for the second time in this series, Marta Kristen gets to use her acting chops, but she's not playing her actual character Judy. She's playing someone else who looks like Judy. Well, at least she gets to say more than 2 words. And she gets to show off that amazing smile and those striking eyes. While Smith is arguing with the robot about what's real here and what isn't, the sergeant comes in. I'm pretty sure every long-time viewer stood up and cheered when he did that.
How dare you? How dare you strike me? I demand an apology at once, you hear, or you face summary court-martial. I'm waiting.
There will be no apology, Smith. We have just checked you out. Your name is Zachary Smith?
Of course it is.
Mine is Horatio Smith. Smith. And whether I like it or not, and I don't, you are my great-great-great-great-grandfather.
Shakespeare said the evil men do lives after them, and Dr. Smith is no exception. Despite not being around any woman who would willingly mate with him, he managed to have descendants, and they have all carried the stain of his horrible deeds. The whole family is an intergalactic pariah.
Do you know what it's like to live under a cloud? To have a finger of scorn pointed at you because you, yes, you, besmirched the family name?
I? Are you suggesting that the family name was besmirched by me?
I believe that's what he just said, except he used the active voice and you used the passive voice.
Were you or were you not the 5th columnist in the Jupiter expedition?
Certainly not.
Were you or were you not the master saboteur?
No.
Were you or were you not the sly Machiavellian menace during the entire Robinson voyage?
Well,
Answer me. Answer me. Yes or no?
How dare you?
He says yes or no, and Smith says, how dare you? Sergeant Smith has his answer, but of course Zachary will never admit it.
How shall I defend myself against these monstrous charges? How shall I clear my good name? I have it. Great-great-great-great-grandson, you will beam this message to Earth immediately from your mothership. I, Zachary Smith.
Forget it, Smith. Messages won't change a thing.
What makes him think he can give this guy orders? The sergeant says, the only thing you can do is appear before the Space Supreme Court and answer the charges. Smith says, point me to it.
Our mothership leaves at dawn. You have 2 hours. You may lift off in your pod at 0600 and rendezvous with us then. I hope you can talk your way out of this, Smith, but I doubt it. If you can't, you can forget that you ever saw me.
Let's see, the robot's memory is going to have all the information about how Smith reprogrammed him to destroy the expedition. Internal ship records will report everything he did and how he got stuck on the ship, as well as everything he's done since then. The sergeant didn't say what happens to him if he can't talk his way out of it. That might have been a good question to bring up. Back at the actual ship, Maureen still can't raise John on the radio. Judy will try to get a picture on the scanner.
Hey, what is it? What happened? What happened? What is it? Will? Will? Don't you know me? Will?
Will, you've changed your hair, but you do look nice in a dress.
I'm Penny. Penny? What is it, Judy? Don't you know us? Oh. I'm all right.
You all right now?
Yes, thank you. It's funny. For a moment, I felt as if I was someone else.
Come on, you know the only time you get to do any real acting is when you're someone else. We won't follow up on that at all, so I couldn't tell you what the point was. But at least Judy got to be Judy for a few brief shining moments.
Will, we checked out the statue. It was erected by your parents before they left.
They lived another 270 years? But Will's so focused he didn't catch that. He wants to know if they left any kind of message for him, but the answer is no.
My team checked out your pod's capability, Will. You can rendezvous with our mother's ship at 0600.
And go where?
Back to Earth. Where else?
Dr. Smith and your robot are already on their way to your vehicle. Well, that is if you want to take that antique robot along.
I wouldn't go anywhere without him.
I understand. You'll make an interesting addition to our space museum.
You assume Will is going to let you take him. You assume wrong. Try to take the robot from him, and the robot will show you some of the more interesting things he can do. Earth people finally learned how to do that.
Didn't you hear me calling you?
We heard nothing, Will Robinson.
That Commander Fletcher said you were headed for the space pod.
And so we were. But where is it? I know this is where we left it.
That's right, we did. I remember that tree. What could have happened to it?
I think it'd be very hard not to remember that tree. Smith says we have to find the space pod. I must clear my reputation. Again, good to know he's focused on the important stuff.
Well, I'm not worried about your reputation, Dr. Smith. And even when we do find it, I don't think we should rendezvous with them. I just don't trust them. We're staying here.
Will has had to develop some sharp instincts in a very short time, and he's succeeded. It's too bad he can't give Smith a transfusion or something. It's all starting to come together for him.
Help me! Help me! Help me! Help me! Help me! Help me up! Oh! Good heavens, I shall never be the same.
I guess it was another of those optical illusions.
Another?
We may not even be in the jungle. Maybe we just think we are.
The robot agrees, even though it probably means his statue isn't real. Well, easy come, easy go.
Went around in circles.
And the point of that was... oh, trying to scare them away from the pod, which now looks like it was also abandoned 270 years ago. That has John more than a little suspicious because they know that isn't true. So if it isn't true...
That's what we've been led to think it looks like. By some trick, some illusion.
An illusion, that?
No, I'm serious. I mean it. Try thinking of it as an illusion. It's an illusion. It's an illusion!
That tells them the overgrowth was an illusion, but the pod is real.
You think that Will and Dr. Smith were fooled?
Yes, or they'd be here. And we've got to find them before the illusions become so real for them, they won't know the difference.
Smith may be too far gone. Not only does he believe the illusions, he believes his own fantasies about what a great guy he is.
My dear boy, please try to understand. This is a matter of life and death for me. For posterity, I must erase the smear on the good name of Smith.
But since you actually did those things, I don't think you're going to find a smear remover that'll work. And it still hasn't occurred to him that if this court doesn't believe his tall tales, he could be in a spot of trouble.
Am I seeing things, Robot?
Negative. You are seeing the real pod. However, there is no mothership.
Splendid. Let's go aboard and keep the rendezvous.
Dr. Smith, didn't you hear what the robot said? There's no mothership to rendezvous with.
But it doesn't matter anyway, because not only is there no mothership, Will is pretty sure there's no archaeological team and no fourth generation Judy.
William, surely you don't doubt the evidence of your own senses.
No, the evidence of something other than my senses, and I've got to find out what it is.
He says we're not going anywhere. Smith says, fine, I'll go alone.
William, I'm afraid I shall need a little help with the liftoff.
Not from me, Dr. Smith.
Nor me.
Oh, try to forget your suspicions. I have absolute faith in the integrity of these fine people.
That is the best reason in the universe not to go. If you're in a jam, ask yourself, what would Dr. Smith do? Then do the opposite.
We've got to find out who's doing this to us and why. Are you coming with us?
We are waiting. Please enter your spacecraft and prepare for liftoff. We are waiting.
There you are, William. They're waiting for us.
Don't believe it.
We are waiting.
Let's go, Robot. You'd better come with us, Dr. Smith.
But they're waiting for us.
Well, let them wait.
We are waiting. We are still waiting. We continue to wait. We are tired of waiting. Prolonged waiting begins to wear on us. We are bored. We would like to not be waiting. Are you ready yet?
I know I said this jungle wasn't for real, but now I'm not so sure.
Be sure, Will Robinson. I assure you it is not for real.
Robot, what happened?
I have been subjected to a severe high-frequency attack by an alien force.
That'll happen every time he gives Will more information about the illusions. Fortunately, he knows the direction it's coming from, so they can make their way to the source and deal with it. It doesn't take the robot long to recover.
He's for real, isn't he?
Yes, because this planet evolved a perfect copy of an Earth Puma, Will.
Negative.
You okay, Robot?
I do not know who I am. Who are you?
I don't believe it. I don't believe you're for real.
Or maybe it didn't. The robot is in no shape to continue, so Will forges on ahead.
Less and less like a rainforest and more like good old Death Valley.
Yes, and there are some illusions there, too.
Is this an illusion? Maybe. Even though it seems to be holding us back, keep going!
So far, it's a mite easier for Will to forge ahead than it is for his dad and Don.
You were right. Something's dead set on getting us to turn back.
Which I have no intention of doing.
Will's latest illusion is an Irwin Allen special.
No! You're not for real! I don't believe it. I don't believe it!
Someday, when I'm really bored, I may try to count how many Irwin Allen shows that critter has been in. He's a TV star in his own right. Whatever is doing this conjures some rock monsters that he thinks away, and it's time to meet the mastermind behind all this.
Why are you still here? Why have you not departed? Are you not afraid?
That thing's illusions have sort of made it impossible for them to leave. A curious mind like Will's has to know how they happen to be almost 300 years in the future.
You are an intruder. There is no place for you here.
But we didn't come here by choice, and we don't mean any harm.
All intruders are harmful. They must be so deluded by fear that they will depart quickly.
Intruders into what? What's it protecting? Does it even know?
It seems to me that you're the one who's afraid. If you're so scared, why don't you just destroy us and be done with it?
I am not programmed to destroy, unfortunately. Over the centuries since I was abandoned here, I have acquired the power to create illusions against those who would intrude here.
It was abandoned centuries ago by whom we don't know. But now we know what's going on. That thing desperately needs a tune-up. Will says, your illusions don't fool me anymore.
You are afraid.
You're not real, you're not!
You will be destroyed by your fear.
I don't believe it, you're not real!
He is real, Will Robinson.
I give the machine major points for imagination. I don't think there's enough weed in the world to make me envision something like that.
Seize them.
The machine used up the last of its powers to create reality instead of illusion.
But he forgot to insulate both it and himself, so a few electrical bolts took care of both of them. Next time, give your monster rubber soles.
Will.
Dad!
Well, it took us long enough to find you.
How long, Dad?
About an hour.
Well, that's better than 270 years.
Come again?
It's a long story. I'll explain while we pick up Dr. Smith.
All right.
We never did find out what that thing was protecting that nobody cares about. And I don't get the whole you're in the future thing. For that matter, I don't get the whole idea of using frightening illusions to get people to leave. Have you tried asking nicely? I didn't think so. It was nice that Marta Kristen got to say and do some stuff, and really, except for Penny, this was a pretty balanced episode. We had the big three, of course, but the others got a fair bit of screen time as well. Everybody got to shine a little, even though it was a Will Robot Smith episode. Proof positive it can be done. So why didn't they do it more often? Don't look at me. I'm just a guy with a YouTube channel and an attitude. I'll see you next time you find yourself lost in Irvingland.
If you enjoyed this episode, click the like button and let us know. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell so you always know what is happening, because something is always happening here at Irving Zoo. We make sure of it. We control his computer. Until next time.